Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
Hello, this is Michael Feely, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Well, thank you for that, Michael. That's a very nice intro. Right, hello everybody. Welcome to another Paranormal Dimensions show. Got a lovely young man for you today, Mr. Tom Warrington. I'm going to introduce in a moment. But before I do that, as you know, I've started doing calls out for people. So this is today's three, or for this show's three, I should say, really. I'm going to give a call out for Mark Westbury in Nottingham, UK. I'm going to give a call out for William Poolin, a good friend in San Antonio, Texas, who was a guest on here previously. I think he has a good listen occasionally. And I'm going to give a call out for Steffi Grant and Douglas, Isle of Man, UK. Right. Now, as I said, I've got a lovely young man named Tom Warrington. He's become a little bit of a mate. He's got a radio show of his own, which he has, on a different network, I might say, but, we're all friends, so it's not a problem. So you can hear him laughing in the background there, so I'm going to say hello, Mike, to Tom. Welcome to the show.
What?
I nearly called you Michael there, because
It did, yeah. Thank you for inviting me onto the show, and it's a bit strange, turning the tables, as it were, because it's normally me doing the interviewing.
As you know, I ended up on this show through your show, because I was on your show, and I ended up on a show of my own.
Right.
So,
right.
It's kind of the way things have... I mean, it's like I said before, I never envisioned going on, having my own show at the beginning of this year, but it's kind of worked out that way, that from being on your show, I ended up with a show of my own, but anyway, we won't go into that. This is your show, not my show.
Well, we'll talk about my radio show a little later, I'm sure, but if I may, I want to kind of turn the clocks back now, and tell you all a bit how I became involved in what I'm doing at the minute.
Well, you beat me to the punch, because I was about to ask you that, so...
Oh, there you go. Well, I think we're going 26 years now back, and an infamous programme was aired on the BBC, and called Ghost Watch, which some of you may have not heard of, written by a guy called Stephen Volk, who was actually appeared on one of my radio shows in the very early days, the Pure Paranormal Show. And it was basically a mockumentary, basically, David. Have you heard of this Ghost Watch programme that was aired?
I have a mockumentary. Yeah, I think I do remember something to do with that, unless I'm imagining something, but it does sound familiar, yeah.
It was aired on Halloween, and it was done like a live programme.
Ah, yes, now I do remember it. I'm just trying to think,
I mean, in the early 90s, if you probably remember, this sort of thing was unheard of. So it was very fresh, very raw. And I was quite young. I was allowed to watch this programme, and I don't know what my parents were thinking, because, it led on to what I'm doing to this point in time. And to be honest, it scared the living daylights out of me. It was so real.
Yeah, they did they did a kind of an Orson Welles, but with ghosts and things, didn't they? Like the War of the Worlds. It was like a joke, wasn't it? Yeah.
Right, it was a joke, and it was only weeks later that they kind of announced that the show was a hoax. But fortunately, I had the writer on my show, and he said it was actually based, and they wrote it around the Enfield haunting, which happened back in the 70s, which I'll move on to later. So it was very real. It seemed very real. It was filmed in a normal family's home, and they were plagued by poltergeist activity. And I was absolutely transfixed, horrified, but absolutely transfixed to what was happening. And it raised so many questions. And at the time, at that age, I was aware of ghosts, as it were, and I don't really like that label. Nobody knows what a ghost is, I suppose. It's a terminology we've used to kind of simplify something that we don't understand. But back to that show. I mean, it changed everything for me, really. It really did. I mean, I didn't sleep for days. I slept in my dad's room for
as you've been talking about it, it has actually come back to me now. I do remember it being, I can't think of the hosts on that. Wasn't it?
Oh, crikey! Now you're asking.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to Google it later and find out.
I think it was it Michael? Was it Michael Aspel?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, I think it might well have been someone like Michael Aspel. I mean, and for our US listeners and people around the world, Michael Aspel was like a TV presenter over here in the UK.
I think actually it was Parky. It was Michael Parkinson and Sarah Green.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Craig Charles was featured on it as well. He was kind of like interviewing the people in the street and stuff like that. And the actual poltergeist, or the ghost, the kid's named as Pipes. Which, when you look at the program back, because you can actually buy it on DVD, it's very rare actually to get. And people in America, because it was the anniversary, I think, last year. And I think they re-released the DVD, as it were, and people went crazy over it again. But I say there was actually someone committed suicide from the program. I mean, it had that much of an impact to people. Because it was so believable, it was so raw, it was filmed in such a way that had never been done before, on British television. So, it made a massive impact, and I'm sure it sparked a lot of other people's interest in the paranormal as well. And it was fantastic to get the writer who did the show on my show, because he explained it was based on the Enfield haunting, and he had spoke to Guy Lionel Playfair, Maurice Gross, when they were writing the show, and they wanted to make it as real as possible, and so they had the help of these amazing investigators from the SPR, the Society of Psychical Research, and which probably made it a bit more kind of had a bit more oomph to it. It was, like I say, it had a huge implications as to what I'm doing today, really.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're doing okay. You're doing okay.
Or not. But that really did generate the initial spark. But 3 years later, from that infamous show being aired on Halloween, I received a book. Now this is a bit of a strange book to give a young child, really. And my uncle, bless him, he's a great guy. He's an artist. He's done a lot of things in life. He gave me this book, and now this was a strange but true case book. So I'm sure many listeners probably know that was Michael Aspel, I believe, who introduced that show. And the case book was the book I got was actually a full case book of the Enfield haunting, or the Enfield poltergeist, as it was known back then. So that initially kind of propelled me, and what was a big catalyst for my intrigue into the supernatural, because this case was, is probably one of the best documented known poltergeist cases in the world. Now, there's a lot of skepticism over whether a lot of the activity was fate, but there's no doubt in my mind. And I've actually met Guy Lionel Playfair, God rest his soul, at the Goldsmiths University. He did a talk there on the Enfield haunting. And, I've got a lot of his books. I've actually followed him throughout my life, and interest in the paranormal. I think he's possibly the best psychical researcher there is, and he's wrote some amazing pieces on poltergeist, specifically poltergeist.
Well, you've actually just upset a few people there by saying that, don't you?
Well, Dave, I've upset a lot of people out there. Well, that's my personal opinion.
No, of course it is. Yeah, I know. I was only joking. To be honest, I don't think there should be any egos in this anyway. I mean, we've all got opinions about who we think are the best researchers and things like that. So, I'm very much against the ego thing in this field, because we're all in it together, and we should all be trying to help each other anyway. So.
Well, unfortunately, it's not like that.
No,
is it?
No. But
I mean, it's all about.
As you know, I'm very much against frauds and liars in this field.
Yeah.
But as I know you are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time now, and I met a lot of people along the journey, and unfortunately, I've come across some half-wits and frauds. It goes with every territory, not just the paranormal, ufology.
Sure, yeah.
Zoology. It's every walk of life, unfortunately, and it's how we cope with it, and it's how we deal with it, it's how we move on from it. Is the thing, But it's like I say, it's that the book really did ping it off for me, because then from then on, because I live in rural Lincolnshire, and we're very privileged to have, Bomber County, as it were, based here. So lots of RAF bases, lots of abandoned RAF locations, and supposedly haunted watchtowers.
It's a bit like where I am, because I'm in the rural Suffolk, and we've got the old US bases here. Very, very similar. And so as a child, I was spoilt for choice, really. And this was prior to all these ghost hunting companies that we see so much of now. None of that back then. There was very limited access to information. Internet was probably very limited at the time. Probably took you 2 days to get connected and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember those days.
So very limited to basic newspaper articles and word of mouth, really. But that didn't stop me as a child. We was knocking on doors, asking people, have you seen ghosts? And
you must have got some startled looks at some.
Oh yes, yeah, I did. But then, we had some really intrigued people who shared their stories, and that really kind of fascinated me even more. And it's all about I've done quite a few different things within the paranormal, and the best thing about it all is meeting people and sharing and listening to experiences, because it's fantastic. I mean, I was at an event last night that I should talk about later, and just talking to people is fantastic. And it's fascinating. It really is. And, long may it continue, I suppose. I mean,
it's like you, like me, we've met some lovely friends that we've made, that will stay our friends, because, it's lovely. It's just a lovely, we've met a few weirdos as well, obviously. But you tend to find, you tend to put people who think, well, there's a few weirds that you think, well, I don't want anything to do with those really, and liars and whatever. But you do tend to find a list of people you can trust, what they're telling you is the truth, and or as far as they know it, that is. I mean, it's but anyway, I'm interrupting, and I'll let you carry on.
I mean, like I say, it all boils down to the trust factor as well. Yes. And I think there's a lack of that in a lot of groups that I've seen. Cause I get kindly invited. This is off the cuff from the Paranormal Radio show. I get invited to a lot of events, which is absolutely amazing. So grateful for it. But it's nice to see how different groups and organisations kind of work and their methodology of how they construct an event, because they're not investigations. I do want to put that out there. These nights that you pay for, they're great as an insight to what you could possibly kind of, as a step to the next level if you wish to choose. But they're nothing like an investigation. I mean, I had Anne Winsmith from Parascience, and those guys, they know how to investigate. They collate a lot of data. They're there for years at locations. Now that is an investigation.
Yeah.
You're spending 4 to 8 hours at an event. It's an event. It's a ghost. And I think people nowadays get kind of confused or led down the wrong way as to what they kind of mean. But that's for them to find out. And that's how it happened for me. I mean, I got involved with a group from Spalding. That's how I first started with the ghost hunting scene. I saw it from an event side of things. It was very military led, as you've probably seen, David, on a lot of events. Which I suppose you have to do. You have to kind of be controlled because you don't want every person running around as opposed to haunted location.
I think the thing is with those things, you get a few people that think, something's going to happen straight away, and of course it doesn't. Most of those nights when you have a ghost night or a ghost hunting night, nothing happens, and it gets a bit boring. Yeah. You get to a point you think, I think I might as well go home. Isn't it? You bet. I mean, obviously, if you're spending 8 hours at a place and still nothing happens, it's. I've conducted several private investigations over the time as well. And, in all the years I've been doing it, David, I can honestly say to you that I could probably count on one hand instances that I can't explain or still yet to explain. Yeah. So that shows you a probably true reflection of investigating, because when you've seen it all over Facebook. I mean, some of these groups are producing supposedly EVPs on a daily occurrence. And, it's I'm not condoning it or whatever. I just find it hard to kind of believe. I mean, I'm either doing it incorrectly or there's something amiss, I think also when you've got these groups, you do often have a psychic that is in that group, and you've really got to put a lot of trust within in that psychic, haven't you? Are they, that's when it boils down to the trust of the people that are running it. I mean, I'm in the East Anglia group. Gary Bradfield. Now Gary is very psychic, and I think he's amazing, to be honest. You've probably got your own experiences.
I've worked with several mediums over the years, and I've come across some fraudulent mediums, as probably others have. Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult one. I think these medium-led groups are just off the cuff from the most haunted shows, and they see it how they see it on the TV and they think, well, that's how it should be done. Yeah. Well, it's not. You've got to remember these programs are for entertainment only, and they do state that at the start or end of the shows. And I think there's a lot. There's too many groups now that are just. It's like the blind leading the blind at the minute. Seeing what others do, and it's the same monotonous methodology they use. I think it's got a bit stagnant with regards to events out there, because it's the same. I get invited to a lot of events. I see it a lot, and I used to be involved in a lot of event companies, and it is the same stuff. And it needs fresh ideas. It needs new things. Because I hear and I talk to a lot of guests that travel the UK, sit in different teams, and that they see the same things. Now, I don't know whether that's because groups are afraid of coming away from that same mundane thing, the opening prayer at the start that they do, and then they give a bit of the talk, and they do the human pendulum and all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, there's a lot of ideas, especially back in the Harry Price era, that, we could really implicate, and I think guests would absolutely lap it up. They really would. And I know myself, and I must add at this point, my co-host Barry Frankish, I'll talk about him a little bit later, but we're going to be conducting an event at the Black Swan in York, and we're going to go back to basics. So we're going to have limited amount of technology, if anything, really, and it's going to be generally old Victorian seances. With red light fences and everyone's going to get issued a pen and paper, and generally you are the tool, you are the piece of equipment, you are going to be relying on your senses and your senses only. We possibly will be using a camcorder or two to record, what's progressing in the room, but that is it. We're not going to be using broken radios, we're not going to be using K2s, we're not going to be using laser grids, REM pods, we're not going to use any of that. We are going to go back to basics, and I think a lot of people, a lot of guests out there, they do like that, because when people experience things, 9 times out of 10 it's not through a REM pod or a flashing teddy bear or whatever you want to call it. It's yourself, and the element is a big part of paranormal experiences. And I always say to people, would a paranormal paranormal phenomena occur if that human element wasn't there?
What's your opinion of things like K2 meters and stuff like that?
Oh God, I mean, I have had them in the past, don't get me wrong, but this was from the old ghost hunting events years, and they are great for visual aids. They are great for monitoring electromagnetic fields, but the problem is people don't understand what specific pieces of equipment are for. They are not designed to search for ghosts.
No.
They're not ghost detectors. They are built for other uses, really. The EMF meters, I mean, they've been so kind of enthralled in this kind of paranormal circus, really, because they've been used so much, and people kind of rely on them when they see the lights flash. Oh, we must have a ghost in the room. Well, hang on a minute, let's peel it back. There's a number of things that set these things. Well, I say a number. There's a huge amount of things that set K2s off, because I've done experiments on them. Watches set them off. Fridges set them off. Anything, even yourself. We emit, electric pulses. We do emit small charges of electricity. So people do kind of get confused, and they do get unraveled with the paranormal kind of ghost hunting companies, exploiting and showing off the flashing lights, because let's be honest, it's a great thing to look at in a dark room. When the REM pod goes off and it alarms off, everyone gets excited. But you have to kind of keep your sensible head on when attending any sort of event, and not to try and get too excited and too caught up in the moment, because it's very easy to do. I've seen it very, very often enough, especially when a bang or a knock occurs, and everybody immediately portrays it as a ghost.
I mean, in some of these old buildings, you're going to get wall movements and wood movements and all sorts of things, aren't you? And wind in the willows and things.
Exactly. And I've always said this to people who have been with me. I don't muck about anymore. I say how it is. I used to be one of these people, David, who I'd be scared to kind of offend or upset people, and I have to be quite tactful, because I have a radio show and I do a lot of writing as well. But it's got to a point now, I've seen enough, and I've seen enough kind of conning of people and and misuse of the paranormal, really, because there's a lot of people out there that are just in it for the money.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's even people making ghost detecting machines, isn't there? And
it's big business.
Yeah, and they're not cheap either. I mean, and they're just a lot of them are just a rip-off anyway.
They are. And again, people get caught up in it, you know. And the thing is, these ghost hunting nights, they're all fantastic, you know. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good groups out there, and I went to a good.
You do meet some nice people. That's right.
Of course, but the thing is, it's all about socialising as well. It's not just you go to an event, but you meet people, and you know, you get to know them, and you know, you go to another event. It's like a little community for people, and it's so lovely to see. People create friendships through this, and that's another positive from these kind of events as well. But the downside to it is that they all get caught up in what they see on the TV or what they see on Facebook Lives, and this is what we should be doing. Yeah. Well, no, you know, do what you think, or in fact, if you have a personal preference or interest or direction to what you kind of, I mean, my personal direction when I investigate is temperature, because if you do research apparent hauntings historically, there's always been a sense of temperature changes, and people often, you know, kind of spell temperature increases or decreases. So I specifically monitor. I have a number of temperature loggers that map on a 10 second cycle that record any sort of fluctuations, and then when I get home I can actually put that on a graph, and I can monitor or see if there's any trends to what people were actually saying at that point and that moment in time. And that's something tangible that you can actually, you know, look at or study. But you know, it's I don't know. I mean, it's up to people's decision, really. It depends what you want. If you want to go to an interactive, scary movie, then go to a ghost hunt, you know. But if you want to take that seriousness a bit more and your interest, then I suggest you kind of look at ASAP or the SPR, and you know, they do some great events and great talks and some great workshops, and you know, you will see the difference from going to one of those events to a ghost hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of, well, I won't say the majority, but quite a lot of people only go to, well, maybe one event just to see what it's like, isn't it? You know, then they expect a lot of things to happen, and then they think, well, nothing happened on that, and they don't bother again.
So they go disappointed, don't they? You know, and that's the media's fault. The media paints an untrue picture of what paranormal investigators do. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into paranormal investigating when you're conducting it correctly. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of interviewing. And you know, these events teams just hire out supposedly haunted locations, give you a little bit of history, a bit of equipment, and away you go. You know, that's there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to take it a bit more seriously, then there's a lot of good groups out there that, you know, will kind of guide you in the right direction, as it were. Yeah.
I mean, I quite like the shows Most Haunted and things like that, mostly because of the history they give you at the beginning of the show. You know, that's the most interesting part of it for me. You know, like telling you what may have happened in the past and telling you where the place is and all that sort of stuff. That's what I find the most interesting. Probably the most of what's happening within the show is probably BS, most of it, but you know.
Yeah. But, I mean, Most Haunted is it's the double-edged sword, as we often say.
Well, I'm not saying it's all. Know. I mean, I think they do have the odd thing does happen, but unfortunately, I think they've been caught out once or twice for things that have been faked, haven't they? You know.
I'd say more than twice, David.
Yeah, well, I was being polite.
yeah. Well, I've had Kieran O'Keefe on my show, and I've had I've spoke to Steve Parsons, who's been on Most Haunted, Barry John as well, who's been on I've been on an event with him, and you know, these are all great people. But you know, the show when it originally started I mean, it actually sparked a huge influx of interest from the public. It brought the supernatural to the forefront of people's lives, you know, and it opened up a massive kind of area of growth of groups, of ghost hunt walks, and
it did. That's what started all these paranormal groups up, didn't it? Really.
I mean, people will probably listen to me now. Oh, you slate it off all the time, Tom. I do slate it off because on the back of that, on the other side of the sword it's had a really negative impact on the smaller groups, the lone investigators. I'm a lone investigator. I'm not part of any group. I investigate on my own, and it's had a damaging effect to locations. I mean, I've got a lovely young lady who's coming on the show on the 28th of May, and she's got a local little group, David, and you know, she can't get in any locations anymore because the prices are just up and hiked up, and this is on the stem of Most Haunted. If Most Haunted had been there, you could expect to pay in the exceed of £1,000 in some locations.
Wow, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Lincoln Castle now stands at about £2,000 for one night. This is astronomical, and it's ridiculous, you know, and it stops the little groups enjoying these fantastic locations, and you know, that's what really annoys me, because I've been on the backside of that. I had my own group based in Nottingham many years ago, and we struggled. We really did struggle getting locations because of the prices. But then again, we found some little gems, you know, and actually a story I must tell you. I secured a location. I can tell it's the Stonebow Guild Hall in Lincoln. Never been investigated before until we got there, and we did a night for charity, and the Lincoln mayor attended. It was absolutely fantastic. So we were so honoured and privileged to be there, and 2 days later, I received a message from somebody from Most Haunted asking me about the location. So I you know, I knew what was going on. I knew what he was trying to get at, and I didn't give him much information. I don't think they've been there, but you know, I thought if they actually went to that location, I mean, it would stop many more teams and individuals getting inside, and I thought, I'm not giving you the pleasure of that. So, well, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, Most Haunted, isn't it, really?
I mean, the amount of seasons they've got now, I mean, there can't be that many places they don't know about, I would have thought. But
well, we're blessed in the UK. We really are. I mean, I've travelled all over the UK, and I've been to some amazing locations. I've actually got some really, really interesting locations right on my doorstep. Cressing Barnes, which is one of the last remaining sites or buildings of the Knights Templar, which I regularly visit. Amazing location, and people witnessing monks and all sorts at this location, and that's literally down the road for me. And of course, the haunted watchtowers as well that I've got on my doorstep. Belton House is another one of my favourite places. So yeah, we're quite privileged in the UK, David. I suppose we've got quite a lot of locations.
Yeah, I'd like to join you on one of your hunts one of these days, or one of your investigations. We'll have to try and fix something up.
Definitely. I mean, I've got so much going on this year. A lot of events that I'm attending, and you know, I must mention the guys. Last night, I actually went to the King Edward VII School at Colville. So that was a public event, and that was fantastic. I've never actually done an old Victorian school before. So that was really, really interesting. So the guys at UK Paranormal Nights, they were really nice, really looked after me. And, I'm suffering today though, as we were. It's the ghost hunters hangover, as we call it. So feeling a bit tired today.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's all worth it, isn't it? It's all worth it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, we're doing one in a couple of weeks. I think it's 1st of June. The Ruffham Tower in Norfolk.
Oh, right,
That's
yeah.
with the East Anglia group, with Gary Bradfield. So I'll let you know how that goes. It's supposed to be quite a good event.
Yeah.
Or area.
I've been kindly enough to be invited along to some of their events as well. I think I did an actual live radio show from the Coronation Hall.
Oh yes, yeah, I know.
So they did a public event there. That was great because that was a first live show we did for the Pure Paranormal Radio Show, and it was weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were invited to go to that, but I think we were doing something else at the time. I couldn't do it. So
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah,
that was really good. I think there was a good turnout, and the base camp, I had the radio set up in there, and I kind of interviewed the guests, and stuff was going on in the room. It was great. It was really weird. It was really nice, and we've done the oh goodness me, what was it called now? Oh, the Church Farm Museum, Skegness.
Right, yeah.
That's another location, one of my faves. And
was that where they did the last Paraforce get together?
That got cancelled. That got pulled.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Sean Cadman and Vivian Powell, the organisers. For some unknown reason, I don't know whether, I don't know, lack of interest, I believe it was David. They pulled it.
Right. 'Cause we were thinking about going. I was almost booked a hotel and everything, and then we decided not to do it. But I think I can't think I think there was something else going on again,
Right.
That's the reason we pulled out of it. Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah, well, I know I was invited to do the radio coverage again, because I did it for the first year at, oh goodness me, was it Crescent Temple Barn?
Yes,
wasn't it?
that was a good one. Yeah.
That was very good. So I did the whole weekend of that, and I did two talks as well, which was very honoured. And
I think that's probably where I saw you last, wasn't it? Well, I just sort of see you in passing, and it's hello, go to the next one.
Very manic, that one, because it was because obviously the way they conducted it was you had speakers in two different locations at the same time, so it was very difficult to kind of get round everybody.
Get your timetable right and everything, what you wanted to see, and unfortunately you can't see it all, can you, when they do that, but...
No, and I missed Malcolm Robinson's talk because I was doing mine. He's another great guy who's been on the show, and
he's been on my show. I think he was my second guest actually when I started doing this.
Yeah, we had a really good talk at Paraforce, and he's another chap who I've got a lot of time for, a lot of respect. And what he does, because he's a good researcher as well. Yeah. And people like that, there's not many researchers like that now in the UK, because as you know, David, it's all about the egos and the live feeds at the minute.
Yeah, well, not with everybody, I must say. I mean, I don't think Malcolm's got an ego, and I don't,
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Researchers like himself. There's hardly anyone now like that.
I say most of the people I do actually know or get involved with haven't got an ego. It's there are the few that you do know about, and you tend to avoid them. Because that's all they're all about.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, especially in the kind of haunting kind of side of things, paranormal, it's rife at the minute, and because others are seeing others do it. It's causing another mini explosion of look at me, like my page, share my page culture, and it's really not good. Right. It's because people see this as the thing to do, and the correct way to conduct yourself on an investigation, and I mean, there is benefits to it. I mean, some people say, well, some people can't get to investigations, so live feeds are brilliant.
Or afford them. There are people, money's a bit tight nowadays, and not everyone can afford to go on these things.
Exactly. I mean, that is fantastic. But on the flip side to it, these people are given a platform. They're given a stage. And with that, you can see their egos getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, I think it's having a bit of a negative effect on the paranormal, to be fair, social media.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I mean, I think there'd be a few people out there that would accuse me of that because I've started this radio show up. I mean, I don't get paid for it, and you don't get paid for your end. I do it for the interest of it. And there's no ego involved. I mean, as I always say, it's the people that I have on. It's their show, not mine.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm trying to actually learn the same as you are, and the same as most of us should be. I'm not trying to, I probably know less than most people that come on the show actually about most of the subjects they're talking about. It's and I want to learn from it, and I want to meet these people.
Yeah, exactly. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, it's all about the people, the person interaction, meeting new people, sharing their experiences, learning off of the people. That is the way to kind of go forward, I believe, in the paranormal, because there's not a lot of sharing of information. There's not many groups it's very limited, the groups that talk to each other or interact with each other, which is such a shame because we can learn a lot off each other. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time now, and I'm learning stuff to this day, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, well, I tend to learn from everyone I've had on the show so far. I've learned quite a lot.
That's right.
And it's nice getting to know people as well. When I see you at an event now, I think, hello, Tom, and we know each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, tell us a bit more about. Because I mean, we've got about what have we got? We're about 20 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So,
have you got any books? I think you said you wanted to write a book at some point, didn't you?
I've started writing a book, and there's probably many of the listeners, some of them who would be listening would be bored of me saying it every time because there's nowhere being finished. But it's in the process, and it's been on the back burner for a long, long time. Unfortunately, I write for a number of different magazines as well, so I do a lot of articles, which takes a lot of time, as people know. Writing can be quite tedious.
The Supernatural magazine, I think you've done quite a lot for, haven't you?
So massively Supernatural, and I did several articles for. What's the one? Is it Haunted Magazine?
There is a Haunted Magazine, yep.
Yeah, I've done some for them, and Paranormal Hauntings, I think. I've done quite a few, actually. Written quite a lot of articles, to be fair. The book will be complete, I suppose, probably next year.
I thought you were going to say in 2030.
Oh, God, yeah.
I know. Yeah. There's a few people I know that have got books in the process, and they say, it'll be out next year, and it's still waiting. But hopefully you'll get it out, because I think you've got the knowledge. I mean, you've been in the business for long enough now. You should be, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying, I'm sure you will get it out eventually.
It just felt right to do it, because I've seen a hell of a lot, David. Just that initial interest that started on Halloween in 1992 to this day, I've seen a lot. Yeah. I've seen ghost hunting companies. I've been involved. I started my own group, to writing articles, to starting a radio show, to investigating on my own. So you could say I've got a big, wide spectrum of experiences of people, and and I think I thought it was about time that I kind of put my ideology to pen to paper kind of thing, and hopefully it should be a good read, because there's some amazing paranormal books up there. But a lot of it, though, is kind of the same sort of thing. So, like, people kind of write about their kind of area, which is great. But I've seen a lot of that over the years. But so I kind of want to do a bit of a twist on mine, and it's going to kind of involve the reader, as it were. And I've actually got quite a few unknown stories and experiences from people that approach me, and that I'm going to include in the book, and it's going to kind of involve the reader. So when you're reading it, you're going to I don't want to give too much away, but you're going to have decisions to make in the book, kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be different. I don't think it's been done before, so hopefully it will be it'd be a hit, and I could retire.
So it'd be a bit like a whodunit, and you've got to work out who.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away. No, it involves the read. Instead of you kind of reading, there was a haunting here in the 1800s, and footsteps are still heard to this day. It's not going to be like that. You are going to get a bit of that to paint the picture, but ultimately you're going to have to kind of think for yourself when you read the book. So hopefully,
So I mean,
cool.
Have you got any personal experiences you could relate to us? Your most exciting happenings.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So when I started a group up with somebody who lives in Nottingham, and the group's still doing well to this day. And I wish them all the best. We were invited to a private investigation in a place called Aby. That's ABY, in the Lincolnshire Wolds. The family were absolutely petrified, from all accounts. From the initial, first contact, from the family to the group owner, they were experiencing a plethora of different phenomena that really, kind of got our interest, as it were. So they had things disappearing and reappearing in front of their eyes. They had reports. The children were witnessing full-bodied apparitions. They had the telltale signs of what we class as poltergeist phenomena. Now, when we arrived at the location, the family, David, you're probably a good judge of character when you're talking to people who experience stuff. You know when people are kind of giving you a load of cock and bull, or you know when people are actually generally telling the truth.
Well, I think I've learnt a little bit over the last couple of years.
I'm sure you have.
There was a time when I'd accept everything I heard, but not now.
Exactly. So, that's a really good skill to have, and one that you must have in the paranormal. I kind of knew instantaneously that this could be the real deal here. I mean, the family were shaken, they were crying out for help. So, we spent we spent a lot of hours at the house. There was a point where we even gave the family money to have a day out, so we could concentrate on the house itself. And basically we was there to try and not only attain some evidence of what was going on, but just to reassure. And I think that this is the most important thing when conducting yourself on a private investigation. You have to be very careful, but I think it's more of a reassurance thing when people approach you, because if they are experiencing some phenomena, there's not a lot of people they can turn to. So you are the last port of call, really. So, a lot of trust is handed over, and, but I think ultimately the family were very grateful that we were there. And we did catch some bits. We did catch some phenomena that they were suggesting. They evidently moved home because the activity did not cease. So, and I hate to say it, but a lot of these teams and stuff that go into houses and kind of cease halt to this phenomena, I think it's a load of rubbish. I mean, as you're probably aware, David, the poltergeist activity is very quick to develop and does not a huge amount of time. And people say that the house is still haunted by poltergeist for decades, like a certain location is utter nonsense. But anyway, back to the thing that I personally caught on camera. I set up a static camera up in the child's playroom. The family were actually out on this occasion. I locked the door so that I had the key, or one of the members had the key, and the camera was rolling, and it was left, and we had several cameras scattered over the house, as it were. Now, as you're probably aware, as an investigator, the most painful thing is not just being at the location, but going through the hours and hours of footage and audio clips and and Peter, it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, the amount of stuff that I still haven't gone through is just ridiculous.
You do it 3 or 4 times, really, don't you? Because you've got to go through, you've got to go through each roll of film, or not roll of film, but each digital readout or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in this instant, we had temperature loggers, we had cameras, and these were rolling at a period of 12 hours. So you can imagine the data we had. So the camera that I had in the child's playroom, I was reviewing I think it was on a weekend. Mm. I had my headphones on, I had a cup of coffee. Nothing, 4 hours. 4 hours into it, there was a bang. Well, that's interesting. And anyway, so that went, and then all of a sudden, what is so clear, and if anybody out there would like this, I can give you the original footage as well if you'd like that. You know, I share everything, David. So, you know, and I've had several people listen to this as well. So this was caught on a hard drive camera. I caught, and it lasted approximately, it was seconds. I would say no more than 6 seconds. It was a lady, of probably, I hate to say a mature age, but it was a young lady, but she was humming what I thought was a nursery rhyme, or humming some sort of tune, and it was so clear. I nearly dropped my coffee, and I actually thought one of the kids had come in or something like that, because it was crystal clear, and I produced it to the team, and they said, this is so unexplainable. There was no tape involved, so some people might have suggested that it might have been a previous recording. Well, it was a hard drive camera, and it is so clear. And if anyone would like a snippet of it or whatever, please email me. I'll be most happy to send it to you.
Is there any way you could send it to me and I could put it on my Paranormal Dimensions page, so any listeners listening to this can see it for themselves or hear it? Yeah?
Of course, yeah. And I tell you what I'll do, because obviously the original thing is about 12 hours long.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
it might be a bit long,
No, I've actually got a snippet of the actual humming. But what I've done is, with the footage, I've left in me leaving the room and locking it, so you can see that. So there's no one else in the room. The camera is backed to the wall, and is pointing in the direction of the door, so you can see there's nobody in the room. And so I caught that, and that was one of those moments you thought, crikey, the hair. I mean, the hairs are standing up on my arm now. Just I can always replicate that audio in my head, because I've listened to it about 1,000 times. Still to this day, to kind of eradicate any normality to it, because it was just not possible. How did that sound happen? I don't know. Was it a ghost? I don't know. I don't know what a ghost is. I don't know what a poltergeist is. That's unfair for me to comment. But, I caught that, and it matched up to what the children were saying. They were saying a lady was always singing, always humming. And it was interesting, and eventually the family did move. Because we're not there to kind of bottle up ghosts. This is not Ghostbusters, we're still trying to gauge as to what this phenomena is, and I don't think we'll ever kind of attain any substantial amount of evidence to say, yeah, this is what people are experiencing. I don't think we will. I think it's going to be one of those earthbound mysteries that we shall never know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, though. It's I suppose when someone tells you something like that, you're then in a position where, am I going to imagine? Am I imagining this in my head? And of course, when you've got an actual audio recording of it, then that kind of confirms something, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, and again, I thought, like you said, I always doubt myself, especially when I experience something. And like I mentioned at the start of the show, probably on one hand, I've encountered or witnessed things that I cannot physically explain, but there was just no there was just nothing to kind of attain that, oh, it could be this, because it was such a controlled investigation. And to this day, we actually conducted ourselves very well back in those years. And, something I've kind of built on, because you have to be controlled when it comes to this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can't just jump to conclusions and say, oh, there's definitely something supernatural about something. You've got to discount everything else that it could be first. Yeah.
Exactly, but there you go. Yeah. But yeah, that was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I'm sure that will be in the book as well.
Of course, yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah. It's so have you got any? I mean, I know you've been on quite a few radio shows, haven't you, in the past, apart from your own, of course.
I have. Oh goodness me, Ghost Chronicles International was probably I actually appeared on that, I think, 3 times, really? And that's with Ron Kolek and the fantastic Steve Parsons, who's the other half of Parascience. Yeah, that's an international show. That's a really, really good radio show. If you want to listen to that, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll have to dig a few out.
Yeah. Oh, you must do, yeah. I think they do podcasts and stuff. But yeah, again, another great show that has a wide spectrum of guests, like your show and like my show. And it's something that I have noticed over the years. There's been like a more explosion of these kind of fantastic radio shows. I mean, people are spoiled for choice. It's really cool because I love listening to other shows and you know, it's really nice to hear, again, different kind of speakers and experiences that people are having, and all in the comfort of your own home. You know, you don't have to go. Well, it's fantastic, isn't it?
I mean, the fact that somebody's on a different network, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we're, as I said, we're all in this together. We should be sharing information, whatever we've got, and should we all be mates, really, shouldn't we? You know, not in competition with each other.
No, not at all. There you go.
Hopefully we'll get together at some point. I don't know if you know, but Colonel Holt is doing a conference in September. If you're down in this area, I mean,
I have seen, and I believe, well, like I said, this year is absolutely manic, and I think, I know in September I'm visiting Auschwitz.
Oh, are you? Right.
Yes, in September. So, might be difficult, but I if I'm not, I'll definitely come into that event. It looks really good.
Yeah. Well, the tickets are selling well, but I mean, if you think you might be able to get to it, give me a shout and we'll see what we can do. I think it's going to be an interesting event anyway. There's quite a lot that's gone on in the last couple of years, and it's going to be covering all of that.
Oh, great. No, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll be. And again, you know, the whole convention side of the things in the UK is slowly creeping up again, so that's really good to see, Yeah,
have you got any good guests coming up on your shows?
Crikey, I've actually got the guys who kindly invited me, to their event last night, the UK Paranormal guys. They're on Tuesday's show. I've got the lovely Kylie Davis, who's a local investigator. She actually lives in the same town as me. She's coming on to speak about her frustration, as we mentioned at the start of the show, locations, because, like I say, she's from a very small group, and she can't get anywhere. She's really struggling at the minute.
It's a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, because there are some really, really good, great groups out there, and unfortunately they're just very limited at the minute, and I can't see it really changing with the kind of aspect of locations and pricing, but yeah, so...
I mean, we've got a couple of minutes. What do you think of some of these American shows that are on? I think they're very, I don't know, I think they marvel at everything, don't they?
Well, you know, it's give or take it. I mean, I tend not to watch any sort of paranormal shows. I mean, I used to watch Most Haunted. I remember watching season 1. I think I watched to season 3. You know, and my interest dwindled then rapidly when I saw actually what they were really about. So yeah, I mean, people like them. They're entertaining, aren't they? Come on.
Well, Richard Felix was in the earlier ones, wasn't he? And I've got quite a lot of respect for him, actually. It's but I don't.
Richard's, yeah. He's been on our show, and we've spoken several times as well. And I've been to visit him at Derby Jail. He owns Derby Jail. The thing is with Richard, he is a fantastic historian and a storyteller.
He is, yeah.
You can listen to him for hours, honestly. He knows a lot of information, a lot of brilliant ghost stories.
I think you'll have to, can you give him a shout? Ask him to come on my show. I think I'll have to give him a shout and see if I can get him on.
Yeah, I'll definitely hook you up, because, like I say, he's a very knowledgeable guy. It'd be great for your show, and he's fascinating.
Yeah,
he really
I did
is.
meet him like that once at Paranormal, so I think I've got a lot of respect for him, actually, for us, especially with the ghost histories and everything. Anyway, I'm afraid I think we've got to wind it up there, Tom. I'm going to be running into the next show if I'm not careful, so. Just quickly before people do want to get in contact, I do have a public page, which is Thomas Warrington, Paranormal Writer, Seeker of Truth, if anyone wants to look at my articles. Yeah. Of course, my radio show, Pure Paranormal Radio Show, with my friend Barry Frankish, is on Pulse Talk Radio every Tuesday at 7. And I will put links on my page for all that as well. So I'll do everything I can to point people in your direction as well. Anyway, I'm afraid we've got to say goodbye, Tom, because as I said, I'm going to be running my music in a minute. Anyway, Tom, thanks very much for coming on, and thank you everyone out there for listening. You've been listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions, and I'm David Young, and we've been listening to Tom Warrington. Bye, Tom. Thanks for coming on.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.